Welcome back to No Remorph, guys. It is Wednesday night again. We've got an awesome new kind of guest tonight. We touched on a lot of snake people and different things throughout our, 59 different episodes now, but we're going to start including a little bit more variety in species, a little bit more variety in guests, and that's going to branch out into artists, potters, jewelry people, music. I mean, we're going to get some interesting people coming up this year. Hopefully we're going to be able to schedule those in and make it interesting for everybody out there. A little more variety for everybody to watch. Not going to get rid of the snake people 100%. We're always going to come back to that and visit different people as they're available. But a little bit of a change this week too. Kind of a change that maybe helps everybody a little bit out. I know it helps Jason for sure. We can end a half hour earlier. People on the East Coast can stick with us to the end of the show because it isn't getting so late out there. We're a half hour earlier, obviously. We're at 8 p.m. now Central, and it's going to be 9 on the East Coast rather than the 8:30 here. So hopefully that helps everybody out. I think it's definitely going to be easier on us. It's going to be easier on our guests. A lot of guests have, I wouldn't say mentioned, but I think it is kind of a hesitation sometimes when they hear it's 8:30. If they're East Coast, they're like, boy, that's going to run pretty late for me. So it does bump a little bit up into our friends over at Whiskey Bomb Network and the Balls and Things show that comes on at 7 over on their side. Apologize to them. We definitely talked that through a couple of weeks ago with T over there, and he was more than gracious about it. He's like, yeah, you guys got to do what you got to do, and worked all that out. So no hard feelings on either side there, hopefully. And yeah, I don't think there is going to be. Those guys are awesome over there. Had a alligator guy on there today. So if you did not catch it, or if you're coming over from there, pop back over and catch their replay. It's a fantastic show. Always is with those guys. So little bit of news. We've got our standard news. We obviously, some of you have seen, we did our first vending Sunday. Snake Discovery, Ed and Emily put that on every year. They do a couple locations. They do Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and then they do Hastings, Minnesota. We signed up for the Eau Claire, Wisconsin. We went in there Sunday, showed up nice and early, got all our stuff in, tried out a lot of our gear we hadn't even really dug into prior to that. So pulled off all the plastic on the frameworks and, got this stuff out and figured out how it all went together, put it together, and it ended up working really well. I mean, I think that basic kit that we have and the way we're set up, even down to like the carts and things to get stuff in and out from vehicle back and forth.
A lot of positive feedback from all of the folks in the chat on the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And people at the show, and we even got feedback there like, hey, this looks great. You guys are doing a good job. We were able to let people hold snakes. We were good interaction with the crowd, which was a little bit different crowd. It was an exotic pet fair. So there were sales and things going on, and certainly an intention for people to sell things there. But the mindset of the flow of traffic was almost like a fair or zoo experience for people coming through, showing different animals, looking at different animals, holding them, tons of questions from little kids down to, a year old up to grandparents carting them around. So super wide variety of people. It was awesome, man. We had a blast. Got to hang out a little bit with Adam from Proper Royals before the show and kind of buzz over there, see how he's doing mid-show. And Adam's always a gracious guy too. He's done that one for quite a while, and right out of the gate, he's like, if you guys need anything, any questions, stop over, let me know right away. I'll do what I can to help out. And so had a blast. I thought it went extremely well for our first time out. And Jamie sold a gecko. So
I did.
That didn't all go bad. Got it in the hands of a guy that I think he looked at her 2 or 3 times before he just stopped back and he said, you know what, I'm just going to put her in a container. I'm going to take her with me. So a little bit comical, but on that note, we got some really weird news after work today. We were logging in and getting some stuff set up, and we got a message from Ken over at LMK, whose show we were on last night. If you did not catch that, jump over to that RWO side LMK show and watch that replay. Pretty comical stuff on there last night. We had fun with those guys. But he messaged, and Jamie had entered and passed around a contest from Shedded Out Geckos that was a really nice giveaway. Little female that super pretty, kind of a nice line that she was working in Tangerine Tremper. Jamie entered that contest, passed it to several different people, and Ken was one of those people who doesn't do leopard geckos, but he's like, what the heck, I'll enter it. Well, Ken ends up winning it. So he messaged us right away after work. He says, hey, I won that gecko. I'm going to send it to you guys. And Jamie peed a little bit on the couch. Then she went and got a towel and cleaned that up and came back and started talking with Ken back and forth. And turns out that all the way from Pennsylvania winter, Shedded Out Geckos was listed as Minneapolis, Minnesota, which was already really close to us. That's like an hour and 20 minutes. In talking back and forth, we're like, well, you know what? Let's not stress her. Let's drive over. Can we meet you and get her picked up? She says, actually, I'm in Forest Lake, Minnesota, which is kind of a smaller town suburb almost of the Twin Cities, but 40 minutes from us. So it just keeps creeping closer and closer to us. We're like, what are the odds of this? But I think the takeaway and the message, even talking with Ann and laughing back and forth, is that he knew, he just had the feeling, I don't have a use for this gecko. I'm going to do something really nice for somebody that I've been dealing with for 3 years in this and get along with all the time. We talk back and forth almost daily. I'm going to give it to Forge, and it just pans out that this is just such a strange coincidence of events that she's literally 40 minutes from us.
Right.
Very strange, very cool. We're excited. It's a cool little female, but it kind of shows you that when you reach out to do the right things and do some good for other people, the universe knows that, and things just work out in the right way. So take that
Yes.
as you will.
I'm very
I guess,
grateful. I feel so blessed.
Absolutely, yeah. Can't thank Ken enough for that. That was a fantastic gesture, but just panned out really well for everyone in this scenario. That's the takeaway, right? So they don't have to ship it. We don't have to have it shipped. Ken doesn't have to goof with it. He gets to do something nice for somebody. Everybody wins kind of a scenario. So,
and now he's the godfather to the gecko.
yep.
Right?
So
I had a feeling that
baby
Ken
updates.
was a nice guy.
Yeah, somehow. Even if he's going to show his slides off and his flexibility, we're going to cut him some slack. Yeah. But no, Ken's an awesome guy. Actually, the whole group over there at RWO is awesome people.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of covers our news, guys. Unless you had something different, we're going to run right through everybody in the audience. We're going to say hi, get our sponsors up there, and get right to Jeff, because this is going to be a fun one. Yes. Sammy, good to see you, man. Mr. 2%. Always good to see Sammy, Pink Panther. We got Will, Python Portal. Good to see you, sir. He was on not long ago. Go back and catch that episode. That was a fun one. We got 217 Will. Good to see you, sir. Appreciate you popping in here. Yes, whiskey bombs all day. There he is. There's end of the hour. Ken, that story was about Ken here from LMK with the gecko, so much appreciated, Ken, 100%. We got Tim. That's the old man sitting on the couch, probably drinking another Wisco water just like me, watching the kids do their thing. I say kids, but I say that real loosely as we crown 50 to 50 years old. But Chris out at Fry's from down under. Good to see you, Chris. Appreciate you popping in. Getting to be every week, man. Appreciate you hanging out with us. And there's Shauna. A wild Shauna has appeared. Good to see you. Wheels on the Fat Man bus go round and round with Shauna driving. We got Blakers. Good to see Blakers every time. Comes in here almost every week. And Alan and Tiff. Got the guys from Damballa out here. That's awesome. They're coming up. Not next week, but the week after, I believe. So 2 weeks out.
No, that's RWO Invasion.
3 weeks out?
I think it might be 3.
Man, I got to read that schedule closer. Riley's Reptile Room. Appreciate seeing you here. Good to see you folks. We got James B., the back alley artist right there. Another Forge affiliate. Get yourself some sugar cookies, guys.
I was going to say, and his wife makes cookies.
I know it. I want to try them so bad. I'm going to spend my own Forge coin on them darn things. Get them shipped out here. They look delicious.
In all the land.
Right.
Now there's some people right here on the side of the screen that got a bunch of it.
Yes, there you go. Dickie Foster. Good to see you, sir. Probably on lap 49 of 50 there in that NASCAR. Connie, there's a counterpart to Tim. She's probably having Wisco water too, if I had to guess, but always good to see them coming out to support their kiddos. I'm going to do kiddos like that. Jamie, long time no see, sir. I know you get busy and we do too. Probably not the easiest busiest for you that hour ahead of us, but appreciate you coming out, Mando. Jamie's an excellent guy. Hell of a collection over there, too.
Mark.
Got Mark, Rat Bastard Royals. Good to see you, Mark. Another one of the affiliates for the Forge Coin and a sponsor for the show. He's right down there in the bottom right-hand corner, guys. DDM, Melissa, good to see you guys. Hope you're doing well. Some locals to us, super nice people. Very nice people. Had a little bit of a hard time not long ago, but they're back on their feet. So, Jason, you got to give Jason props here for how long he hung out with us Sunday at the expo.
Got Ford shirt came walking up to our table.
Right?
Yeah.
Just
He even helped us pack up. I mean, how can you beat that, man?
Right?
Just a rando with a Morph shirt on. Appreciate you, Jason. Chris, good to see you, sir. Always nice to see Chris in the audience, too. And we got some of his stuff coming up in the announcements yet. That's going to run through July. So we've got Justin over at Pressure Pythons. Good to see you, sir. Another RWO member. And it sounds like he's going to jump into the affiliates, too. Just talked with him yesterday.
Oh, really?
About that. So,
sweet.
Kurt Wood listening on the drive. Appreciate you, sir. Good laughs last night. It was cool to hang out again. It's been a little while. Got to make that a more regular thing for sure. Kurt cracks me up, man.
Yeah, he's a funny guy.
We got John down there in Texas. Mission Morphs. Appreciate you. Hope the family's doing well. Tell Chance to actually get out there and catch some fish. Got Nikki and Kurt. Irresistibles, Pacific Northwest. I can't do it. Got too much going on.
You can do it.
Ash. Team Malice right there. We got to get Ash on too, man. He's an interesting character. I want to learn more about Benin and some of these dinkers and stuff.
Absolutely.
Actual different areas of Africa. He's doing that pretty directly, you know, so it'd be cool to see his side of it. Yeah, absolutely.
Our dog's gonna say hello.
That's okay. Like. We're just gonna ignore Sophie as much as we can. Or maybe not. Might have to go spank her in a minute. Mm-hmm. Devin, good to see you, sir. We got Thomas, Low Life Exotics. Appreciate you coming out too, sir. He's probably driving as well, Kurt, so you're not alone. He's an over-the-road hauler, so appreciate Thomas swinging in. Brave, good to see you, sir. Hopefully you got a nice, well-mixed smoothie in your hand and you're just sitting back relaxing. I'm sure he does.
I'm sure he does too. Or he's going to tell us about the one he had earlier.
Yeah, that could be part of the deal too. So we are going to bring up a couple of the things in the news bit, and then we're going to roll some sponsors. But first order of business was Chris's Deeds Not Words. Actually, not. It's more for the veterans and things like that. But this is still running, guys. This is going to run through July. Deeds Not Words puts these guys into a little bit of a relaxed situation where they can get away from normal everyday junk and something into they actually have enjoyed or still enjoy, just don't get a chance to do anymore. So every penny of this goes directly to those guys, and Camp Freedom puts them out in, you know, hunting, camping scenarios, outdoors minded stuff. So these guys can get out and enjoy themselves for a little bit, give a little bit back to those that gave so much for us and continue to do so day in, day out. Super important. Get yourself a shirt. All of the proceeds from that go direct to these guys, or just donate at any tier. They can take cash donations of any amount, and different tiers of that will get you different things along the way. But most importantly is just get these guys out and back to something they enjoy. So appreciate Chris for doing that. It's very important. If you have any means or time to invest into that, please do so. Got affiliates coming up too, but Jay's got his deal. Every week we got to hit this.
Jay?
And Jay's microphone died, so I'm going to do it. And it's Coco2go or The Chipper, Chris at B&S Reptilia out there. Smiley guy and a cute little kid in his arms. That's kind of how he operates the whole time. Super family oriented and super nice guy. But many different species over there, all the way from colubrids up through boas. So if you need something from Chris, he is a Forge affiliate as well, and he is more than happy to take Forge coin toward whatever it is you're looking for. So can't say enough good about Chris and appreciate his sponsorship 100%.
Thanks,
And
John.
yeah, I could see your mouth moving, but I wasn't picking up a darn thing. So I said, well, let me grab this ball of yarn and run with it. So we got that in there.
Funny.
Yeah, but brings us to our sponsors, guys, and we can be right back with Jeff. I'm super hyped for this because it is a little bit of a different topic and a conversation we haven't had yet. So I'm going to learn a ton tonight. Hopefully everybody else does too. Yeah. But on that note, to see what we got for affiliates and sponsors, guys. All right, we are back. So that is it, guys. All the affiliates and Charlie, of course, first sponsor on the board, and appreciate his support 100%. Always easy to work with. Even if he loses a gravel test here and there, he will get a hold of you and tell you to send it in again. So he'll follow up and make sure it happens. But yeah, with all that out of the way, we're going to send Jamie backstage for a little bit. She's going to come out and talk with Jeff too, since she does a lot of the, well, all of the gecko stuff on this side. She's got her own stuff she'd like to direct towards Jeff. But in the meantime, she's going to be taking all your comments, putting them up there. If you guys have questions directly for Jeff, we're going to try to get to those if we can. Jamie, you all set?
I'm all
Round
set.
This up a trivia question for the end of the show.
Will do.
Yeah, get out of here. Jeff's anxious back there too, I'm sure. All right, let's get Jeff out here, guys.
There he is.
Jeff, thank you for joining us tonight. Doing
absolutely.
Good, doing good,
it's a pleasure.
I always have to get used to that little bit of a delay. It's on my side, not yours. And I'm half expecting you to hear me instantly. And I know that doesn't always work. So I apologize if I talk over you a little bit, but thank you for joining us tonight. For those of us out here, including us, that aren't super familiar with you. Now, Jamie is, because you guys have had a lot of conversations about geckos back and forth. Tell us a little bit about you, your background, and kind of how you got on this path where you're at right now.
It's actually a pretty interesting story. I had reptiles growing up as a kid when I was little, and I remember me and my son were actually in a pet store, and we were just walking around looking at animals and stuff like that, and he noticed a gecko that they had in there. And he's like, Dad, this is really cool. And, it looks like a dinosaur. And you know how much I like dinosaurs. So, which I do as well. So I'm a kid at heart when it comes to that. And so I got to thinking like, wow, he really is excited about this. So I started doing some research on leopard geckos and to see if I could find a leopard gecko breeder in Ohio. And I did find a gentleman up in near Lake Erie, and he's one of the top breeders in the country. And his name's
Okay.
Joe Yingling at Lake Erie Leopard Geckos. So I kind of called him up and was talking to him a little bit and say, hey, I'm really, looking for a leopard gecko for my son for Christmas, but I have no idea of what a leopard gecko actually is. I've done a little bit of research, but I don't really know the ins and outs and everything. So he kind of walked me through everything, the different type of morphs and patterns and colors. And he goes, well, do you know what your son really likes? And I'm like, no, I really never asked him outside of the one he saw in the pet store. So I kind of showed him a couple of pictures. And sure enough, he got really excited about the one that he had. So I ended up getting a leopard gecko for him for Christmas.
Perfect. Okay.
And so absolutely. And Joe's a great guy, and he basically walked me through the steps of how to take care of it, how to set everything up, and any type of questions I had for him, I could ask him 24/7 if I had to. He was great every step of the way. And the more and more I talked to him, the more it excited me to get into this species. And lo and behold, that's what I ended up doing. And then I ended up getting some of my breeder stock that I have right now from Joe at Lake Erie.
Wow.
Okay. Nice. So it just starts with a kid going, oh man, look at this, to now you're in it arm deep.
Yep, pretty much. Pretty
Kinda,
much that's all it took.
yep. Kind of how we hear
Was
a
it-
lot of people get into this, but go ahead, Jay.
I was just going to say, is your son still involved in it, or?
He's what was funny, the gecko that he has is one of the founding, I call it the founding originators of GTL Geckos. And his name is Godzilla, which my son named. And he is actually in an enclosure actually behind me, because I tried to introduce him into my breeding projects. I had a couple projects that I wanted him to be a part of because he's just a magnificent looking gecko. But for some odd reason, I don't know if it's just he has gotten so used to his enclosure that he will not breed. And I've tried it for the last 2 years, and he wants nothing to do with it. So
Wow.
I'm gonna try again next year. If it doesn't happen, then it's not a big deal. But yeah, my son, when he's here, he will come down and he'll get right in front of the enclosure, and that gecko will come out and follow my son from one end to the enclosure all the way to the other.
Wow.
Huh.
He recognizes him.
Yes, and
Yeah.
he will literally just sit and watch every step that he makes, and then when he actually will open the enclosure doors, he will come up right to him. If he puts his hand out, he'll walk right up into his hand and sit there for as long as my son lets him do it.
Pretty
That's
cool.
wild. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the nice side of the geckos that we're starting to see now with Jamie working with them that we don't see on the snake side. I mean, there are snakes that don't mind being held. There's snakes that, will
hmm
actively kind of come toward you because they know you get them out of their enclosure, but nothing to that degree where they're going to follow you around and like request that. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's a completely different level.
They definitely think, though. I mean, you can
Yeah,
tell there's something going on there, you know?
yeah, they leopard geckos. What I've noticed in my experience, they have a wide range of a personality. Each gecko has their own personality. You could even have clutch mates, and they're totally different personality wise. And most of them are very friendly, very, forthcoming with you, letting them hold them and that type of thing. But there's some of the different morphs, like the bandit morph sometimes, or even sometimes the Halloween mask, they can get a little bit, agitated at times and really just want to be left alone. But most of the time, the only issues I've ever had with any of the ones that I keep is usually during breeding season when I'm putting a male in with a female, and after the male's done, and I know that I needed to see what I needed to see and trying to pull the male out, I've been nipped a couple times because he wants to keep going.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the only issues I've had with any of the leopard geckos that I have.
Sure.
Gotcha. So talk us through GTL. How did that name get landed on? What is that? I assume it stands for something.
Yeah, GTL. Actually, my wife is the one who actually came up with the name. I was just kind of trying to think of a catchy name, and I couldn't come up with anything right off the bat. And she goes, "Well, the three founding geckos that you got from Joe just use their names as the actual, base of your name, which is basically GTL is Godzilla, Thelma, and Louise. So those are the three founding members of GTL. So that's how the name came about.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. I know it's a super popular movie, Thelma and Louise, but I think I'd like it
Yeah,
better if Godzilla was in it. To be
Right,
real
right.
honest,
well,
I
yeah,
mean,
it would make it more exciting and fun. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, a little
I,
twist on it.
yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
see, my wife's a redhead, so Thelma in the movie portrayed a redhead, and the Thelma that I have is a tangerine. So basically, that's the closest to a redhead you're going to get in a
Oh,
leopard
wow.
gecko. So the
Yeah.
name was fitting.
Yeah, it's almost coming back too. And I don't know if you're familiar, Tommy, at Exotic World of Geckos. Jamie and Tommy are communicating all the time. Very nice guy. Also works with the leopards too. So he's just giving you a little shout out there. But so you do work with leopards, but you do some other
Yes.
stuff too in geckos. And that's the one that I know very little about. So can you kind of explain to us what that species is and you're doing with those?
Sure thing. There's a couple species that I'm working with right now. The first species I have that I'm working with that I'm not going to be able to breed until about September because the females still need to mature a little bit more, and that's basically the pictus gecko. In other words, the scientific name is Periodora picta, which means Madagascar ground gecko. So they are found in the southern regions of Madagascar on the forest floor in leaf litter most of the time, and rocks and stones and hang out in. They're about full grown, they're about 5 inches long, maybe 5.5 inches, but they are the coolest animals to work with. Ollie Kern there at Supreme Gecko, a shout out to him. Very nice guy. And and I just basically asked him once I saw a video that he did on his YouTube channel, and I was always wanting to work with another species outside of leopard geckos to kind of diversify what I have. And they just caught my eye. They're a very stunning looking gecko. Their eyes are kind of like a leopard gecko, but the only thing they can't do is blink. The
Okay.
their eye has the same um, look as a cat's eye,
Yeah, I've
and
seen
they
that
can
now you
see
say that.
really good in the dark.
Okay.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And we're losing you just a little bit. I'm not sure. Are you getting that too, Jay?
Yeah.
Okay. Like we're missing about every second or third word. And I was hoping it wasn't us doing that to you, but can you hear us fine?
Okay, can you hear me now? Yeah, I can hear you guys fine.
Okay.
Okay. We
Yeah.
got a
Just a
big
really
delay.
weird lag. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. It's just really, really delayed, like several seconds even.
Okay.
I'm wondering if you're on Wi Fi, maybe.
Delayed. Okay, let me see.
And we
Let me
can give
take a
you a
look
moment
here.
too. Might almost take a reconnect because I think Jay and I are pretty in sync. Yeah. We're doing okay.
Yeah,
And we're
I think so.
miles and miles apart. So,
Oh, really?
oh, okay. Very cool.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I actually remember him talking about them. Specifically about the eyes, because the eyes have like the cat style eye.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Will's always got
bad.
something wise has to say,
Jamie said bad words at you, Will.
right? She's backstage. We'll bring her out actually until we can get Jeff back in here. Um, yeah, just kind of sometimes happens, but we'll see if we can't get a little better connection with them.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yep.
Yep.
You
At
good?
least from
We
I,
good this time?
I think so. It's still pretty choppy. It kind of wants to like cut out half of what you're saying.
Yeah.
It
Seems
seems
like the
like good for
delay's
a
maybe
minute.
not
How's
as
that now?
bad. That seems pretty good.
Seems okay.
Okay.
And I've noted that Wi-Fi does that a lot to
Okay.
people,
So
depending on what's on their Wi-Fi. So
Yeah.
yeah, what I was just checking here, and I'm like, well, everything's connected to where it needs to be connected to. So I don't know. I think we have gremlins in our house sometimes.
it seems like it's better now. It seems like it's more fluid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll go with that then. So you just want me to begin where I was talking before I started breaking up?
I think we
You
lost you
got
at about the difference of the eyelids and the cat eye of the first species.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Basically, yeah, they have no eyelids like a leopard gecko does have eyelids. The Pictus gecko does not. And when they go out hunting at night for their prey, their eye kind of mimics the same as a cat's eye. So their vision at nighttime is extremely good for hunting purposes and to avoid predators and things like that. Their care is a little bit different than the leopard gecko. They need a little higher humidity, usually anywhere between 60%, somewhere around in that range. And basically, you can accomplish that by just misting your enclosure, usually once a week. But they're a pretty adaptable animal. Like their hot side, you can keep anywhere between 88 and 92 degrees, and they're perfectly satisfied.
Gotcha.
Same basic feeding. I mean, feeding.
Yeah.
Obviously, they eat at night, probably only, or prefer it for sure, right?
Most of them, usually I feed all of my animals at night because that mimics what usually happens in nature because
Right.
they're a
Yeah.
crepuscular animal just like the leopard gecko. So you probably could feed them in the daytime if you're keeping them in like a rack system or something like that. I don't think that would be a big deal. But what I try to do is mimic the natural environment where they come from the best
Hmm.
way I can. I can't do it 100%, but I can get
Right.
pretty close. And they eat the same thing as a leopard gecko does. They're
Okay.
insectivores, so mealworms, dubia roaches, that type of thing. But when they're babies, you can feed them the same stuff, but it just needs to be on a smaller scale since they're a lot smaller than a leopard gecko is.
Sure.
Sure. Gotcha.
Cool
So
animal, cool animal though.
what do you find, or do you do the variety of things? Do you do all of those food items, or do you kind of do a majority crickets or mealworm, or a pretty good mix?
Usually I will do a variety of three different insects. I don't do crickets because I can't stand the noise and I can't stand the smell.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's why
they're
I
They
do
do.
stinky.
not do
They do
crickets.
stink, don't they? Yeah.
Oh, it's the smell is like I just can't get past it. So what I usually do is a rotation of mealworms, dubia roaches, and black soldier fly larvae, and I'll do that on a consistent rotating basis.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
the dubia roaches are amazing because they're probably the most nutritious feeder insect you could give your geckos.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard they're one of the better ones, top of the end
Yes.
there. And along with some of the other crickets, though, aren't some of the soft body crickets right up there too, comparison wise, as far as nutrition value?
There is. I know crickets hold a lot. They have a really high moisture content, which is very good for your animals. But as far as they're not fattening, so you don't have to worry about your gecko becoming obese or anything like that. And they do have a lot of nutritional value along with that. But the black soldier fly larva has the perfect phosphorus to calcium ratio. It is like dead on,
Oh.
and I usually will give those to my breeding females. So when they're producing eggs, they have to have a lot of calcium to make sure
Hmm.
that the eggshells are forming correctly and that type of thing. So I will usually feed mealworms, doobies, but then I'll put like 5 or 6 black soldier fly larvae in there as well.
So then, do you use the powder or anything like that to coat the other stuff, or is that you just go with the what'd you call them, black soldier
Yeah, black
larvae?
soldier fly larvae.
Okay.
No, I dust all my feeders. They
Do
will
you?
tell
Okay.
you that the black soldier, yeah, they will tell you the black soldier fly larva you don't have to dust, but I go ahead and do it anyways. And I use a vitamin and calcium mixture. Basically, I use Vionate, and I also use Osteoform SA. And I will do a 1-to-1 part with that, and then I'll dust every time I feed. And I also
Okay.
put a little bottle cap of calcium, the Rapashi Super Cow, in each enclosure for the gecko to lick up if they need extra calcium. Because the biggest thing I get at expos, or people will come to me and ask me, well, aren't you worried about, vitamin D3 overdose? And
Hmm.
I'm like, no, because a lot of that is a myth when it comes to the vitamin D3 overdosing, because the gecko is only going to take what their body is telling them that they need, and they won't go any
Yeah.
further than that. And I said, to overdose your gecko, they're going to have to consume a whole bottle of that at one time for it to cause any problems.
Yeah. I was just going to ask that if
Gotcha.
it's something where they kind of crave it because they need it and they eat it, and you don't have to really worry about, if they're taking too much of it. So that makes sense.
Exactly. They will eat what they need to eat. And like I said, the breeding females will probably eat a little bit more than usual when they're breeding, because their body is telling them you need the calcium.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. And without that, I mean, are they still going to breed, produce their eggs? They're just going to have some bone deficiency issues, things like that, like health issues
Yeah.
going along with that.
Yeah, if they don't get enough calcium when they're producing eggs, the eggs itself, they're not going to come out right. It's most of them
Wow.
are going to be on the soft side. They're usually a little spongy to begin with, anyways, but you could see a not very healthy development of the actual egg. But then on the flip side of it, if you're not supplementing with calcium and the right amount of vitamin A, when those geckos hatch out, you could have, one maybe missing an eyelid, or come out with, some type of metabolic bone disease from the female not taking in enough vitamins and calcium during egg production. So I tell people, dust your insects with the proper ratios of vitamins and calcium to avoid anything like that happening when these geckos hatch out. But there are runoffs where a gecko may hatch out with a short tail. And what
Hmm.
I have found out in my experience, it's not a genetic thing from what I can tell, because if it was a genetic thing, let's say you have a clutch of 6 or 7, and you have one gecko hatch out of them 6 or 7 eggs with one short tail, but everybody else's tails are fine. That tells me that it's not a genetic issue. It's how they probably laid in the actual egg itself.
Sure.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. So that's all. I mean, for us, again, I hate to ask really basic questions. I think a lot of people that do come and watch us aren't familiar with this, aside from Tommy and stuff. A lot of snake people, or people that are just here, out of support for us, not so much reptile people at all. So if any of this seems really basic, I apologize, but I'm learning a ton from this.
No,
So, um, are now you talked about a third species. Is this one considerably different, or are we kind of staying in the same care guidelines, just a slightly different animal?
it's slightly different animal, same care. It's on a lot smaller scale. It is the viper gecko, which is native to Pakistan.
Okay.
And when they hatch out, their babies are so small you can take their babies and put them in a uh, unscrewable Coke bottle cap. That's how small they are.
Wow.
Wow.
And
Okay.
yes, it is to see it on, like, in a picture, but then to actually witness it in real life, it's like night and day. When you see something that small, it's almost like I don't even know if I can pick this thing up or
Can't
not,
touch it.
because it is so
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they're very friendly animal, very cool animal. And the name Viper comes after the pattern in their skin resembles the scales of a viper snake, and
Okay.
that's where they got their name from. Really,
And
really
these are
cool.
Pakistan.
And
Now, is this Pakistan's wildly different depending on where? Is this a arid or is this a more tropic or what kind of a?
it more desert because these
Okay.
guys like a little bit higher heat. So these guys, you want to keep their hot spot at about 93, 94 degrees, somewhere around in there because they do like the hotter environment.
Mhm.
Now, with all of my enclosures, I keep the viper gecko. I basically keep them on strictly sand because in their natural habitat, that's what they're used to begin with, anyways. So they have no problem with, I tell people don't worry about impaction because impaction is a totally different thing
Yeah.
than what a lot of people think impaction means. Most of the time, I think it is either your animal is not healthy anyways, or it's lacking in calcium and it's licking up anything it can get a hold of.
Right. And
Sure.
it's the sand.
Gotcha.
So it's the sand that's causing it, but it's not because
Ex-
they're living on it. It's because there's some other issue.
exactly. I think there's an underlying condition with that
Yeah.
animal, and that's why it's getting impacted because no animal's just going to go up and say, "Oh, there's sand. I'm going to eat it." You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
Right.
it's just it just doesn't make sense to me. Um,
Right.
so that's why I think personally it's an underlying issue with the care not being correct at that time.
Yeah.
They are strictly, you can feed them mealworms, dubia roaches, black soldier fly larvae, but when you feed them when they're growing up, you have to go with the micro mealworms because they're just so small of an animal. Plus, they can
Yeah.
also eat dwarf white isopods and even
Oh, okay.
wingless fruit flies as well.
Wow.
Gotcha.
So
That was going to be my
what
next question. Being they're so tiny, I'm like, you can't give
yeah.
this thing a mealworm. There's no way it would eat that, right? But you can
No,
get the
yeah,
very micro
micro.
ones.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, when they're full grown, they'll get to about 3.5, maybe 4 inches in length. And at that
Okay.
point in time, it could probably take a normal size, large mealworm or 3/8 of an inch dubia roach, something like that. But when they're wee little babies, you got to be
Mhm.
very careful of what you're feeding them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we find, at least in this area now, if we get into the Twin Cities or bigger areas like that, we find more availability of those things. So like micro mealworms, we're not going to see those at our little local stuff around here. But mealworms,
No.
we can get crickets, we can get the standard stuff. So
You have
important
to
for
pull you
people
the
to know
wings
that you
off your own fruit fly.
right, yeah, you got to catch them and pull your own wings. But
Yeah.
important for people to know that and know they have a supply of it close if that's something they're considering too. So um, yeah, tiny, tiny, holy cats! I never imagined it would fit in a little bottle cap, but
Yeah, it blows your mind when you actually look at that, and then you look at a leopard gecko baby. Even it's like night and day. It's like I just couldn't believe there's you're that small.
Yeah. It's pretty
right.
crazy.
So
And what
knowing you
kind of
keep the
coloration?
three, oh, go ahead, Jay.
Sorry, John. But what kind of coloration do they have? Is it? I mean, do they vary quite a bit, like a leopard gecko, or?
There's not a whole lot of morphs or lines out there for the viper geckos yet. It's pretty much the only colors that I have seen is they will have like a tannish type color, but then the normal ones that you see all the time are more your grayish with white specks on it and that type of thing.
Okay.
It's not like a leopard gecko where you have 32 different morphs.
Right. Right.
Gotcha. And the wild array of rainbow colors. I mean, from white to black to purple to
Yes.
orange. None of that stuff going on.
Yes.
Okay. Is that true of
No.
the others as well? Are they pretty limited
The
in
pick
what they're going to display?
the Pictus geckos, there are four different types of lines that they have. They have your traditional bold stripe line, which is basically a solid stripe from the back of their head all the way down to the tip of their tail, and it's usually a bright white stripe with black sides to it. So it's pretty cool to look at. Then they have an albino species called the Emil, and I have a visual albino, which is more of like a tannish kind of caramel color with a white stripe down its back. And then the female that I have is not a visual albino, but she is more of a darker, like brownish color, but she still has a thick white stripe down her back. And then there's the Arne, which is, if I hope I'm saying it right, it's the Anzintic type of gecko for that line of the Periodora picta. And then there's a red stripe line, which I also call high red. Wally Kern, who I got these from, it's his personal line that he doesn't release that often. And the geckos will be like a reddish, like a brown reddish tint to it, but the red on the actual brown tint kind of magnifies off of that animal if you get one of those that pop out correctly. So those are the four
Gotcha.
basic lines in the Pictus geckos.
Okay. Now, do you, as far as keeping and dealing with them day in, day out, do you have a preference of the three? Is there one that you just say, if I had to pick one of these three and only work that, what would you stick with in that group?
Wow.
I know
They're
that's
all
not
three
a very
great.
nice question.
No, it is. It is. They're all three great geckos, and they're all three great in their own way. But
Sure.
if I had to pick out of the three, I probably would pick the leopard gecko, because the personality of the leopard gecko is what really captivates me and sells me to keep coming back to that animal. Now, the other two you can handle, but they're not as stable as a leopard gecko, and their personalities are great. But I think the personality of a leopard gecko is second to none. I may be a little biased in saying that, but I just think they're great animals.
Yeah.
Jamie's got a cool story. Maybe she'll tell it on the way to getting ready for the show about one of her leopard geckos who killed me. I couldn't believe it. Yeah.
We felt so
That'd be
bad.
good.
We'll let her tell that, but
Yeah.
and it's not like a tragedy or anything. It was just so cute, kind of tugged at your heart a little bit. So yeah, we'll let her tell that after your hot seat, and maybe then you'll feel like, come on, just tell me the worst thing you got after this whole hot seat experience. But, so in your group, how big a group are we talking, like numbers wise? And it doesn't have to be dead on. I mean, just a rough idea for people, like how many you're keeping and breeding pairs, things like that. Like what kind of numbers are we working with? Thanks, Jordan. Have a good one, man.
What I have between all three species, I have at the moment with all three species, I have a total of 31 between the Leos, the Pictus gecko, and the Viper geckos. For my leopard geckos, I have 6 breeder males at the moment, and I have 9 breeder females, which is I have 5 of the breeder females that I acquired when I first started, and I have 4 holdbacks from my first season that I bred for female. So there's 9 total of those, because those females I held back will go into the breeding rotation next year.
Sure.
And then
Okay.
currently I have 9 babies, since one hatched out this morning, and I currently have 19 eggs currently incubating at the moment, and 3 females
Nice.
are still laying. So there's more to come. The
Right.
Pictus geckos, I have 3 breeder males and 3 breeder females, and one that I don't know the sex yet, because they're still too young to
Sure.
sex at the moment. And then at the moment, I just have the one Viper gecko, and I have to wait a few more months to be able to sex that, to determine what sex that is, so I could go out there and either get a male or female, depending on what this one's going to be. So at any
Gotcha.
given
Okay.
time, I want to stay on the smaller scale of breeding. Since, I've got a demanding full-time job. I've got a son that plays travel baseball and a daughter that's in gymnastics. So I have to separate the family time from the gecko time.
For
And
sure.
I want to give the best care possible because I don't want to get to the point where I get so big I do the animals injustice.
Yeah.
And if I ever got to that point, I got to get out it because I'm not doing the animals any favors by not being able to
Right.
take care of them. So I put a number at about 100 between breeders, babies, that type of thing. That's a number that I can relatively work with. Anything more than that, it could get kind of tough, and I don't want to get to that point.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And a
It's more,
perfect set of
it's,
ethics around it. I mean, it makes complete sense when you have all of that going on the family side besides. So we've moved past that on our side. We're a bit older. All our kids are out and about and out of the house.
Mhm.
So it's all of us trying to figure out what to do after that 40-hour job. And it kind of loosened up enough time and things for us to grow some of that. Plus the three of us. It isn't just me or Jason or Jamie. It's all of us contributing. So, that scale is going to look different for everyone, but I love the idea that you've kind of picked that number and that works for you. And that's awesome. It's a great
Yeah,
place to
because
be.
I tell people all the time, I said, these animals didn't choose to come into this world. I brought them into this world. So by doing that, they're going to get the best care that I can give them on an everyday basis.
So awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, talking about keeping the three different kinds, you talked about one requires the sand, the leopards, and the I can't say this one right. Pick something.
Pick this
Pick
gecko.
Pictus. Okay, Pictus isn't hard.
Pick
I
this.
thought it got longer than that for some reason, but
Well,
those two are
if you want to
relatively
use the
similar.
science, yeah, if you want to
Oh,
use
go
the
ahead.
scientific name, it's Periodora picta.
There you
Okay,
go. That's
there we
harder.
go. That is
We'll stay
very
away
much
from that
harder. I'm
one.
going to go with Pictus if that's cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So those and the leopards are fairly close in how they're kept, but you
Mhm.
go to the and that's completely different. Are you doing different caging, or do you do like rack tub systems, or are these individual vivariums? How is your keeping on that side?
I would love to be able to keep every single one of my animals in a enclosure, but it's just not feasible to do that. I would love to have a setup for every single one of them like that, like I have for my son's leopard gecko, big 40-gallon enclosure and all decked out and stuff like that. But no, I keep all of mine in a rack system. I use sea serpent racks. I have the 6-quart racks for all of my baby hatchlings, and then once they get up to about 30 grams or so, they're ready to be moved up into a bigger enclosure. So I'll move them up to the 12-quart tub, and
Okay,
then my adults. Since the male leopard geckos usually get bigger than the females, I'll usually keep my breeder males in a 28-quart tub, and then I usually keep my females in a 26-quart tub.
Okay.
okay,
And with
gotcha,
and with the pictus and the vipers, they don't use, like I said, they don't get near the size as a leopard gecko. So you could basically, with the pictus gecko, 12 to 15 quart tub, if that's what you're doing in a rack system, is perfect for them.
gotcha. Okay, that's good to know too, because then people can kind of plot like, what do I actually need as this thing develops? If they get a little 15-gram baby, like what do I need to be looking at to get this at least comfortable and in a good situation?
Yeah, if someone was taking it home as a pet, for, let's say, the pictus geckos, a 20 long would be perfect for them, which I think a 20 long is 30 by 12 by 12, I think the size is. And then as far as the viper gecko, you could a 20 long would be perfect for them, but they could even do a 15-gallon as well since they're so small. But for
Sure.
the
Gotcha.
leopards, I always tell people, for leopard geckos, for them, bigger the better, because I say if you can get a 40-gallon enclosure, get a 40-gallon enclosure, because an adult leopard gecko will explore that whole entire enclosure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they're busy if they're allowed to be, for sure. They're out and
Yes,
about and
and
kind of
they
cruising around.
you yeah, you give them stuff to climb on. They're not, arboreal like a crusted or anything like that. They can't stick to the glass, but they think they can, and it's kind of funny to watch them sometimes. Slide down the glass, and then they turn around and look at the glass, and what just happened?
Yeah.
Right.
but
Yeah.
but I have stuff for my sons to climb on, and if you give them something to climb on, they will climb on it. They have no problems doing that.
Sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're all over rocks and down trees and
Yes.
logs and junk out in their natural habitat. So why not, right?
Yep.
They got the claws
Absolutely.
for it. They can certainly grip
Yep.
any texture there is. They can grip it. Just don't give them glass.
Yep.
That's no good for them.
Exactly. I tell people the more enrichment you can give them, they'll love you for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So plans, I know we've kind of did a little back looking and you have done some vending and stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about how that went for you?
I love vending. I went through because I had some stock last year from the gentleman I mentioned at the beginning of the show. He had a friend that got involved in a bad auto accident, and he couldn't take care of his leopard geckos anymore. And he had about 40 of them that he didn't know what to do with. So Joe took those 40 off of him, and he knew that I was getting ready to vend some reptile shows and stuff like that. And he said, "Hey, would you mind, you know, would you have any problem taking these 40 and vending these at the show?" And I'm like, "No." I said, "That's a great way for me to get my name out there
Yeah.
and to tell everybody who GTL actually is." So basically, I took those 40 that he had and then the ones that I produced last year, because I produced about, I want to say it was 23 babies last year. So between all of those geckos, I started vending last September, and then I stopped this past April because my son's baseball season started up, and at that point in time, I was getting into breeding season, that type of thing. So I ended up selling 70 some geckos within that time period,
Wow.
Nice.
just at expos.
Yeah, that's a great
Yeah,
number to work with.
and
Do you do? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead,
Oh
go ahead.
no, I was going to say you were saying you love doing the vending, but do you do the other markets as well, like Morph Market? Just word of mouth. Have
Yes.
you found success through those routes?
I do go through Morph Market as well. I have sold some of my higher end babies that I had last year that I did sell through Morph Market. And I've sold to, people out in Oregon, just basically all across the country that I have sold and shipped to through Morph Market. So that is another means of selling through. Plus, I also have a website that if you go to it, it just gives general information of care sheets that you need for the species. There's also a page on there that has, my store policy, shipping requirements, that type of through the website. It'll direct you to my Morph Market because basically all outside of expos, or if I
Losing them again.
Yep, froze again. I always wonder if it's on
oh,
my side.
do you
That's
have
why I'm
me?
glad we have you back now. I think. No,
Mm.
maybe. Man, connection issues are
Do
always
you
a
have me
thing,
now?
and it's no,
We
your
can hear you,
screen is
but
froze.
videos froze.
Oh, I think we lost it
Gremlins, I'm telling you.
altogether.
Boy, it's really trying to hang in
Oh,
there, but it's not doing a good
do you have me
job.
now?
Yep. Oh,
Uh,
wow.
am I back now?
Kind of, sorta. It's super spotty.
Let me see. Am I
Now it
coming through
seems
better?
Yeah.
Seems to be calming down now. Yep.
Okay, well, I know we've got a lot of rain coming through this area, so I don't know if that's having anything to do with it.
That could be.
I think
So
you're
how
back
far
now.
did I get again? So how far did I get?
Through you had just told us you had some really good success through Morph Market selling your higher end stuff, and you were telling us about your website.
Okay.
That was the last
Yeah.
part I caught, was that your website.
Yes.
You could go there and see stock. Maybe
Yeah.
I lost it somewhere in there.
Yeah, you can
Fair
go.
guys.
Yeah, you can. My website has a lot of pictures of the different vending places I vended at, and then it's got care guides for all the species that I work with. And then if you go to my shop page, that'll direct you to my Morph Market page. There's an actual link on there. So any type of sales that I do have that's not through an expo or Instagram, you can actually direct it straight to the Morph Market page. And when I start posting animals for the 2025 season, that's where they'll go.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Makes
So
sense.
no immediate plan for vending much this year. You'd kind of rather do the Morph Market side of it because of the baseball and gymnastics and other things going on.
Well, yeah, actually, my son's season ends the first week of July, and I will actually start vending again in July to one of the expos that I usually generally go to. So at that point in time, I will have some geckos that are going to be up to weight, because usually I don't sell a gecko, and this is just personally me. I usually don't put them on the market until they're at least between 20 and 25 grams, which tells me that they're eating very good. They are hardy animals, and I don't have to worry about somebody taking them home and something happening to that gecko.
Yeah.
For sure, gotcha.
Yeah.
I assume that you have not done the Pictus and the Vipers for sales, correct? Just leopards?
Just the leopards. The Pictus, they will go into breeding this September, because the females at that point in time, they recommend that you could start breeding them at 8 months old, the females, but if you can wait till 10 months old, it seems like you get better production. Because one thing about the Pictus geckos is they breed like rabbits, and one female could drop 20 eggs.
Oh, okay.
Yes, two at a time. Yeah, two at a time. They lay like a leopard does. Sometimes you may get one, but most of the time it's two at a time. But they will keep laying and laying and laying. So you really have to keep on up on the calcium with them more than you
Yeah.
would a leopard gecko. But I'm trying to figure out now, since I have the three females, if they produce that many eggs, I'm going to have to set a number in my mind what I could actually handle at one time and how many to incubate. So right now, that number is probably going to be 30 total, probably 10 eggs from each female, and then see how those turn out and go from there. But yeah, they produce like crazy.
So is there any
Got it.
control? I mean, is it like there's copulation and then they can just keep making eggs, or do they have to continue to copulate to make more? Is it like the leopard geckos,
Usually,
or are they?
they will actually their storage of a male sperm for the Pictus gecko will last longer than a leopard gecko's.
Oh, okay.
So the normal breeding for the Pictus gecko, the male can breed as early as 3 months old, and the
Wow.
females,
That's really
yeah,
early.
that is very early. So the females, you like I said, you could breed them at 8 months old, but they recommend let them mature a little bit more to get to 10 months old, because they produce so much. So the gentleman that's kind of going to walk me through this is Wally, who I got these from to begin with, and he's been working with Pictus geckos probably for 10 to 15 years, if not longer. And basically, he will put the male in with them. Like, he'll put him in there for a day and then take him out, let the female kind of rest for a day or two, and then put the male in there again. So he'll do it for like 3 times to make sure that everything takes. And then after that
Yeah.
third time, he'll pull the male out and let the female go for the rest of the season.
Wow.
Gotcha.
Because the
Okay.
male, you let the male keep going, he will basically breed the female to death. That's how prolific they are.
Wow.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like some college guys I knew. But we won't talk. No, I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
So it's going to be an adjustment on my end when I start breeding those, because they're totally different in that aspect than a leopard gecko.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be interesting to see how my first season goes with those.
For sure.
Gonna come with
Well,
baskets of eggs.
Right? Come with an Easter basket.
Mhm.
They're like, I've got 80 guys. Here you go.
Mhm. That's
We're
funny.
definitely going to follow up on all of that stuff. Plus, Jamie's going to throw hers in. But we have crowned the moment in the show where, regardless of your connection, you're going in the hot seat, mister.
That's
So,
fine.
yeah.
Bring it
I'm
on.
gonna wish you luck over there. You two know each other already, but I think she's got some
Yeah.
surprises up her sleeve. So good luck in there. Jason and I are gonna kind of step to the side, and we'll see you in a few. If you're still in
All right.
one
Sounds
piece,
good, guys.
we got plenty more for you. So good luck over
We'll
there,
see what
man.
happens.
All right,
Thanks.
here we go.
It's time to play the game. It's time to play the game. Ha ha ha. Let's go.
I love that every time. We're ready for that. We definitely have a little lag. Are you able to hear me?
I can hear you clean as a bell.
Okay. I'll just go slow because there is a lag on my end.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. I have no idea.
That's okay. Would you rather drive a 1960s Mustang or a 1940s pickup?
Oh, we'll have to go with the Mustang. I'm not a pickup type of guy.
Do you have a color preference for your Mustang?
It's got to be black.
I always thought yellow Mustangs were sweet.
They do.
Mu-
They do look good.
yeah, they're nice. Museum or battlefield tour?
Oh, that's a tough one. Depends what battlefield we're talking about. If it was like Gettysburg or something like that, I would do the battlefield tour.
Yep. That's kind of what I had in mind when I typed that out. Music or storytelling?
Music, definitely.
Baseball game or school concert?
Baseball game.
Firewood or furnace?
Firewood.
Do you like when the whole house smells like that firewood smell? Like it gets in your blankets and
I do.
everything.
I like, I don't know, there's something about being outside in the fall around a
Yeah,
fire, that type of thing, the
campfire.
smell
Yeah,
of the fire. I
absolutely.
loved it as a kid, so that hasn't left me as an adult. So,
Yeah, very good. Would you rather sip coffee on the porch or whiskey by the fire?
wow, I like both of them. Wow. I'll say whiskey by the fire.
Yeah, that's fun. Start singing some karaoke and play music.
Well, you don't want me to sing. I can listen to music, but you don't want me to sing.
What's the most old fashioned belief you hold?
Wow. Old fashioned belief. Boy, that's a tough one. I would probably say the old fashioned belief would be always respect your elders, no matter if you like to or not.
Right? It's a good one. I was hoping you weren't going to say children are meant to be seen, not heard.
No,
My grandmother said
I had
that.
Yep, I had family members that used to say that, so no, I would never
Yeah,
say something like that.
that's funny. Campfire s'mores or a diner's pie?
Well, I'll tell you what, if I would say a diner's pie if it's very good.
Yeah, it's very good, of course.
Ye
What
yes.
flavor?
Yes. Probably apple.
Yeah, apple's the best one. What historical event would you time travel to if it were possible?
I would say the signing of the Declaration of the Independence.
Oh, yeah? How come?
Yeah. I'm a history buff,
Yeah.
and between, the Revolutionary War, all the presidents, Civil War, that type of thing, World War II, I can't get enough of that stuff, and my wife calls me a nerd every time I turn that stuff on, but it's just something that I love to do. I love history in general.
Yes. It'd be cool to be a witness, I guess. You could say, I time traveled there.
Yeah, exactly.
Wisdom, wisdom or sense of humor?
I'm gonna say sense of humor because I think a lot of people need more of a sense of humor
I,
nowadays, so I'll go
yeah,
sense of humor.
I agree. Wind chimes or church bells?
I'll say wind chimes.
Uh-huh. Do you like the ones that are high pitched or the lower pitched ones?
Kind of the lower pitched ones, kind of the,
Yeah.
not too high, not too low, kind of in between.
Yep. What is your favorite thing to do on a rainy day?
Just take care of geckos count.
Yeah. Absolutely.
um, yeah, but I would probably say outside of that, I don't know, probably on a rainy day, probably a good movie.
Yep. Sit on the couch with your family.
Yep.
Would you rather relive your favorite childhood memory or jump into the future and see your great grandkids?
Ooh. I don't know. I would probably say jump into the future to see my grandkids. I would probably go
Yeah.
with that one.
Yeah, I think I would too. Castles
Yeah.
or cathedrals?
Castles.
Okay. Family reunion or friends gathering?
Oh, it's got to be the family reunion. Those are you never know what you're going to get at those.
Could go this way or that
Very
way.
entertaining. Yeah. If you knew my family, it's going to be entertaining. So you would go with that.
Do you have a big family, siblings wise?
Siblings, I've got a brother that's 15 years older than me, and I have a
Okay.
sister that's 12 years older than me, and I'm
Okay.
50. So I'm definitely was the oops. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I was the oops.
Right.
Um, but that's just the immediate family. But I have so many cousins that I could probably give people if they needed some.
That's awesome. Oh,
Truly, truly, and
that's
most of them live
complete.
down in Florida.
Oh, nice. That's completely opposite of me. I've got
Yeah,
one first cousin, and that's it. Isn't that weird?
that is weird.
Yeah. Okay. If you could hang out with any cartoon character, who would it be?
I'm going to go way back on this one. I'm going to go with Pete Puma.
Who is Pete Puma? I'm gonna have to Google that.
It's a long time ago. You're probably talking 1960s, probably.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna Google
Yeah.
it. What was the first moment that pulled you into reptile keeping? Which we already learned it was the pet store. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, especially with leopard geckos, even when I didn't have any, or my son didn't have any at that moment, I've always kind of looked at them because I was a big dinosaur person growing up as a
Yeah.
kid, and I
Yeah.
always look at a leopard gecko with if you look at a side view with their eyes and stuff like that, it kind of reminds me of the raptors on Jurassic Park.
Absolutely.
So I think a lot of that had to do with my interest in them outside
Yeah.
of, my son kind of pulling me into the whole ordeal.
Yeah. How old was your son when you went to that pet store?
Oh, let me see here. He'll be 9 in June. So this was what, 2023? So yeah, he'd been six,
7?
almost 7, I think,
Okay.
somewhere around in there.
Just a little tyke. Okay, cute.
Yeah.
How difficult is it to balance breeding with family life?
It can, to be honest, it can be difficult if you let it to be difficult. I'm
Mhm.
one that is I do things, it has to be done this way, this way, this way, this way.
That's
And
routine.
I'm a particular person when it comes to that type of stuff. So I've basically got it down to where when I'm cleaning, feeding, fetching eggs, that type of thing,
Mhm.
I've kind of got it down to a science to where with everything that I do, I'm not taking away a lot of family time. I can usually get it done
Right.
within an hour and a half total
Yeah.
with everything that I have.
Yep.
So if you really don't take a look at it and plan your way of how you're going to handle these animals, it could get out of hand to where, you start
Yeah.
losing family time because you're constantly taking care of the geckos.
Now, you do a lot of the feeding and whatnot at night. Do you wait until your kiddos are in bed, or how do you feel? Yeah.
Most of the time it's usually around 9 o'clock, between 9:30, usually somewhere. I
Okay.
fed them a little bit earlier tonight
Right. The
of
show.
this. But exactly. But more than not, it's usually they're in bed when I'm actually feeding. So I'm losing no family time with them at all.
Right. Perfect. How do you hope to inspire the upcoming breeders?
With me, it's education. We have a lot of, different podcasts out there that are focused on leopard geckos, and I talk to a few, quite a few breeders I'm in constant contact with on an everyday basis.
Mm,
And a lot of the breeders that are out there are the younger generation.
yeah.
So education is the biggest thing for them to get them excited. And like when I'm at expos, like if I see little kids come up to the table and stuff like that, you know, will basically talk to them. And there was one expo where I physically had a kid come behind my table and kind of sat with me for a little bit to watch what
How
I
cute.
did.
Yeah.
And just to watch that kid's reaction, it made my whole entire day. I
Mm,
That's one thing I took away. I didn't even have to sell an animal,
right.
nothing. Just having that kid be with me
Their
for that
eyes
period of
just
time and see
glow.
his reaction. Yeah, that
Yeah.
meant more to me than anything else. So,
Absolutely.
constant education is a key because there's a lot of people out there when they come to the expos, they'll say, I've been reading this on the internet and I get about 10 different ways, 10 different
Mhm.
situations. How do I handle this reading it from the internet? And I go, when you look at the internet, take everything with a grain of salt. I said, but
Yeah.
if you really want to get into this and you really want to know the animal, contact a breeder. That's the best person you need to contact because they're going to know everything you need to know.
That's why I bother you so often.
That's fine. I have no
That's
problem.
super
Me, to me, there's no such thing as a dumb question.
right. All right.
I help out any way that I can.
The last question in the hot seat for you. If you could go back in time and talk to little Jeffrey, what would you tell him?
To not torment his parents so much.
You were a mean kiddo.
I wasn't a mean kiddo. I was a very ornery kid, and I
Oh,
had no fear. Had no
okay.
fear whatsoever. So yeah, I look back now. And I'm like, I am surprised that I lived as long as I did, to be honest with you.
How did they love me? It's funny. You
Exactly. How did
survived,
they not just like give me away or something like that?
right?
Right.
It's
No,
funny.
they were great. They were older they were older they were older generation parents,
Yeah,
and I learned a lot from both of them. And when dad would always tell me stuff growing up, I really never listened to him much when I was younger because I'm like, he's old, he doesn't really know anything. But the older I got, the more it resonated, the more I thought, hey, everything that man said came true.
right. Yeah, wisdom. None of the young
Yeah.
people ever believe that, but it
Yes.
is true. Well, thank you for joining me in the hot seat. Thank you for everybody that tuned in. And as always, like,
Well,
share,
thank
follow,
you.
and subscribe. And today I'm going to stay on the screen so I won't disappear.
You are. You're going to stay on the screen, and I'm going to move everybody around. I'm going to put
Okay.
me over here. I'm going to put Jason up there. There. That feels more comfortable. Actually, just in case comments pop up, I'm going to switch Jeff over there. So yeah, you did well, man. Again, I know that's really tough for both sides when we have that little bit of a 3-4 second delay, but you guys worked it out. You seem to kind of get it going the right way. So perfect, man. Awesome answers, and get to know you a little more so than just, hey, what's in your collection? Do you like vending? You actually get to know the person with Jamie's questions, which is way more fun
Right.
because that's what we're here for.
Absolutely.
So yeah. So I appreciate your patience with that. And you did well, man. I don't see any char marks. Looks like you came out of that just fine.
Good answers. We're
Melted a
family
little
feeding
bit.
you
Well,
back there. Good answer. Good answer.
That,
I wanted you had mentioned looking things up on the internet and all the different answers that you find. It's so true because when I look up, like, how often should I be feeding an adult leopard gecko? They're every other day, every 2 days, 3 to 4 times a week. But I've talked to breeders and they're like once a week or twice a week. So I really don't even know.
So there
it,
you go. Perfect question.
yeah, it's you'll get, like I said, when you look on the internet, you could run into 4 or 5 different answers for
Yeah.
a single question. And that's why I tell people contact a breeder, because more than not, they're going to have a lot of years under their belt.
Right.
So they're used to a specific feeding schedule, because with leopard geckos, I can tell you this, that they are an animal that'll very easily get obese if you let
Yeah.
them. And it's usually not good for the females because that will cause infertility issues and things like
Mm.
that if they get too obese. So, yeah, the best way to do it is get with a breeder. And like I said, the gentleman that got me into this, pretty much his feeding schedule is what I go by.
Yeah. Which is you do twice a week, correct?
Yeah, usually with the babies, the hatchlings, from the time they come out of the egg up until they're about 30
Yep.
grams, I will feed
Every
every
day.
single day.
Yep.
Yes. And then once they hit 30 grams, I'll go to every other day till they get close to about a year old. And then
Okay.
once they hit a year old, I will feed outside of the breeding females if they're not in breeding season. I'll feed them usually about every 4 days.
Okay. Good.
Gotcha.
And that keeps their
So
weight. That keeps their
Yeah.
weight.
Yep.
So we never really touched on, and I'm a little bit curious about this because I haven't looked. Jamie's done far more looking at what goes into the leopard gecko side of things as far as their polymorphism, like established known genes, and if there are, obviously there are with albinos and things, some recessives going on. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit about the array of different things with leopards? Is it more lineage and polymorphism, or is it a base set of known genes that you can get these odd combos from?
There's a lot of I work with I don't work with any visual albinos. I don't have any visual albinos in my collection. Most of my leopard geckos are possible het for tripper, possible het for eclipse. I do have one male that is 100% het for trimper and 50% het for eclipse, but all my other ones are either no known hets or they're a possible trimper or a possible het for trimper or possible het for eclipse. So I work more with the Firebolt line, the Clown line, which is in Emerine, basically. The Bengal line is very popular. I don't know if you've heard about that line yet. It's basically there's about 10 different morphs that make up the Bengal line. And it's basically everything bold and tangerine. A gentleman named by Rudy out at Bold and Bright Geckos in 2013, he started combining everything that is bold and tangerine. And basically it created this Bengal line that is still evolving to this day. But one of the biggest things with that line is the blacks or the striking visuals of black are usually deeper than what you would see on a normal bold gecko, and it just creates just these amazing animals when you pair it up to a wide variety of animals. As far as recessives, you have your blue amber eye, which is basically an eye of the leopard gecko that basically, if you shine a light on it, it will have a blue hue instead of the normal like black or snake eyes. It's really cool. It's something that's not been around for too long. Your other recessives would be your bell albino, your trimper, your blizzard, your cipher. It's out there now. As far as like um, dominance would be your um, well,
Like
actually,
white and
yeah,
yellow,
your
maybe?
dominance would be white and yellow, your Albie Snow, your Albie Snow, your Tug Snow, Wild Caught Gem Snow, your like I said, your white and yellows will be your dominant traits, and then you have your dominant would be like your for geckos, the ones that get really big, or your Max Snows.
Gotcha.
I think we're going to lose you again, Jeff.
Yeah, you're
Yep, we're
cutting off pretty hard.
starting to break up
Oh,
again. Yep.
Nope,
I don't
you're
know.
back.
do you have me back now?
Yeah.
I think so. Yep.
I wonder what that is. Must be
I
the
don't know.
rain. We're gonna blame it on the rain. Blame it on the rain.
Yes,
Milli Vanilli.
it's still doing it, so that's probably the main thing. So, but yeah, most of my collection that I have is polygenic lines that I work
Okay.
with. At some point in time, I would like to work with the visual albinos. One I would probably work with more than anything else would be your trimper. But right now, I'm just working with the polygenic lines.
Gotcha. Yeah, so the bolds, the firebolts, the clowns, the
Yes.
bandits, all of that mix
Yep.
of stuff. Okay.
Yep.
I love all
Tangerine, Halloween mask. Yeah.
Gotcha.
They're all
And those are
awesome.
the ones that are immediately striking when you see them too. Like the albino is a full body shift of color, but the ones you're talking about are like, wow, they stand out.
Mhm.
They're markedly different, at least appearance wise.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's why I think I work with them a lot more is because I really like the color saturation, the bright oranges, the really bold and deep blacks and yellows, those types
Mhm.
of things. I can't get away from them. I just keep going back to, the bolder and brighter colors. I really do.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah.
can't say I blame you there at all. I know, Jamie, you must
Yeah.
have a couple of other questions for him. We are hitting that hour and a half mark, which we always try to keep it right around there anyway, or
Yeah.
close. What do you got for him, Jamie, directly now that you have him here and not typing to him?
Yeah. I was wondering how you feel about the Black Knight project. Seems like it's super popular, but what I read is there can be some issues with them.
It is a very super popular line. I don't work with any personally, but I think they are a very cool gecko. There's something about a black gecko that just
Yeah.
jumps off the screen at you when you see it. One thing I can tell you about the Black Knights, they are insanely inbred, and that's how they came up with that black
Oh,
collar. So we're probably talking, and this is just a guesstimate, I would say probably 10, 11, 12 years of straight inbreeding to get those deep black colors. And what some people were running into is the geckos would take forever to grow. The
mhm,
females, you had a hard time getting them up to breeding weight, and a lot of them would
okay.
be have infertility problems that they would run
Oh,
into. But what
right.
I've noticed now is a lot of the breeders out there are not inbreeding as much. They're basically taking a black knight from this group, a black knight from that group that are not directly related to
Yeah.
each other, and create geckos from that. And they're creating geckos that are healthier looking,
Right.
bigger,
Okay.
um,
Okay.
and then they're crossing them into other animals, which is amazing because you're basically taking that black knight gene, which is an amazing gene, crossing it into a tangerine or a Bengal
Right.
or something
Yeah.
else, and they're coming up with really good results. But I just haven't worked with them personally yet. It doesn't mean I'm not going to,
Right.
but early on there was some issues with that line.
Yeah.
So you
Have
feel like
yeah.
that's coming out of the
Out
water a
of
little
the
bit and
yeah.
improving as
Yes,
it's getting
I think
spread.
it's
Okay.
Okay.
yes, it's improving immensely, and the stuff that I've seen out there that people are creating with the Black Knight, it's
Yeah.
incredible stuff, and
It really
they're
is.
not having yeah, they're not having the issues they had been having in the past, so I think it's on the right track.
Because I've got one female that is a Black Knight cross, and I just keep
Mhm.
going back and forth whether or not I want to get into Black Knight or not.
It's great genetics.
Yeah.
I what I've seen is great stuff. I haven't dived into it, big time to really know the ins and outs and everything like that, but just visually what I've seen other people do with them, it's pretty striking.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. That's
And to
awesome.
draw a little bit on your genetic knowledge, are there things out there for somebody that hasn't had the time to look really deep into this? They're interested, they're curious, they want to pair some things up. Are there things they should avoid? Some known issues with leopards that just, hey, don't put these together. Don't, just known problems.
The biggest one I could tell right off the bat is you cannot, the three albino lines, the Tremper albino, the Bell albino, and the Rainwater, you cannot breed them to one another. You can't take a Tremper and breed it to a Bell, or take a Tremper and breed it to a Rainwater, or vice versa, because you're going to end up with some problems.
Okay.
What if they're
Yeah, you
just
can do
het for those albinos? Does that make a difference?
if they're het, if they're a possible het, depending on, there's a difference between possible het, which means it possibly could be from what the breeder was breeding and whatever that he was doing, but hadn't physically further tested down the line to see if it maybe was, 25% or 50% or 100% het. Because to make it a true albino, you have to have, the male's got to have the albino gene, the female's got to have the albino gene to produce a visual. If
Right.
neither one has it, you're not going to have if one has it and the other one doesn't, you're not going to pop out a visual albino
Right.
unless nature creates some screwy thing
Right.
that one does pop out under them circumstances, but more than not it's not. So I would, if you're not sure, I would go back to the person you got them from and maybe
Okay.
ask, okay, what were their parents?
Right.
What lineage were their parents, what lineage were their grandparents, and then kind of decide at that point. But if you
Okay.
know that visually they're going to produce albinos, you want to
Yeah.
stick trimper to trimper, bell to
Stay,
bell,
yeah.
rainwater to
Okay.
rainwater. Yes. Do not
Are the
cross them.
white
I will tell
are,
you that
are the white and yellows the same? You can't put two white and yellows together?
the white and yellows, there was a thing back in the day about white and yellow syndrome to where they would, do the stargazing where they would kind of look
Mm,
around like they're looking at nothing or they look dazed or stumble around, that type of thing. Not much anymore. I have seen white and yellow from some breeders, but more than not, they're taking a white and yellow and they're breeding it to something else. They're taking the white and yellow genetics, but they're filling it in with other things instead of straight white and yellow to white and yellow. Because there was
right.
one breeder that recently did that, excuse me, not too long ago, and he didn't like the results from a white and yellow to white and yellow. So he always takes it to
Okay.
something else.
Okay. You see a lot of super snows and you hear different things, whether they're this a good gene or bad. What do you feel about putting max snow together?
That would probably be a question for somebody else at that point because I haven't worked with any of the max snows or any of the super
Yeah.
snows or anything like that. I would hate to give you information that I don't quite know what would happen if
Yeah.
you did that. I know
Yep.
there for a while the super snows was a craze and everybody
Hmm.
was looking for super snows because of the way they look.
They're
But
cool.
what
Yeah.
I've seen, they are, especially if they could take a max snow as when they hatch out as a baby and keep that same pattern as an
Yeah.
adult, that would be an
Right.
amazing looking animal. But it never stay
Absolutely.
it doesn't stay that way.
No.
Um, but what I've seen is I've seen someone take a max snow and take it to like a black knight.
Okay. I've
And
seen them on North
that
Market. Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people do that. But as far as taking them to each other or doing things like that, I'm probably not the best one to ask about that because I don't work with them, so I couldn't tell you what results you're going to get.
Right. Just try and plan for next year.
Right. And she'll have so many
It's
more
like
questions
hey,
for you, Jeff.
it's like playing mad scientist sometimes.
Right.
Right.
Hey, I welcome all questions. I will help you out any way that I possibly can.
Yeah. You've been a
Awesome.
great help. It's fun chatting.
Thank you.
So we wind down the show. Jamie will hit on something we've talked about through the show. We give away 10 Forge Coin that goes to all the affiliates, that pool of what you have for Forge Coin. Any of those
Mhm.
people on the affiliates list, reach out to us, guys. Don't be shy about it. I know there's people out sitting out there with 80, almost 100 Forge Coin, some different people. So shirts, hats, whatever you guys want, don't feel bad about calling in that coin and spending it. It's what it's there for. So
Yeah, for sure.
something you said, Jeff, or something she said, or JRI said, that's the question next. What did you come up with, Amy?
All right. Tonight's trivia question is, what does GTL stand for?
Nice. That is a great one because somebody would have had to listen.
Yep.
You're not going to come up with
Yeah,
that
that could
on
be a
your own.
stumper.
It's not got to leave. It's not got to leave.
No. I would have never come up on it on my own.
Oh,
Mitzi Ann.
boom.
Congratulations, Mitzi.
Wow.
Nice job,
Holy
Missy.
That was
cats. She's
super
paying
freaky
attention.
fast. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
Ken was
Ken's
right on her heels.
behind.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right on her heels.
Yep. Also, Mitzi says her son has a leopard gecko and it's a max snow. Very cool.
Nice. Very cool.
They're popular. They are out
Yeah.
there.
Yep. Very cool.
And Mitzi, get us your shirt size. Just tell us what size. You already picked your color. It's all set up. I just need to know what size to ship you. Just a heads up, Mitzi. So yeah, great job. Good job on everything tonight, guys. Awesome to have a different topic in here that I am completely clueless about because I'm like glued to every answer. I want to absorb this stuff, but I know nothing about it from the outside in. So appreciate you coming in and sharing that with us, Jeff. Welcome back anytime. Honestly, we'll probably have you back for a panel, something like that. Maybe we'll get a couple different gecko guys together and you guys can sling mud at each other while Jason and I sit back and laugh. But
That would be
that'd be fun.
Get
Yeah,
Tom
we'll just-
on here. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we'll get gecko guys together and have a panel of that sort some night.
Yeah.
So appreciate that. But we do give you the opportunity to do your shout outs too. You already mentioned some guys that got you started, but anyone in the community that's been helpful to you or you want to give them a personal shout out before we close out tonight?
It'd be hard to single out anybody with those shout outs. It'd basically be the whole leopard gecko community. There's a lot of great guys out there. I wouldn't want to pick one person over the other because everybody does great work. And I wouldn't want to forget anybody and giving shout outs to, but it would be the whole leopard gecko community. We're very close knit with what's going on. And the biggest thing we're trying to do is promote leopard geckos and get people excited again with leopard geckos. And what I've noticed from the expos is there is that excitement out there again. So we're doing our job into getting people interested in these amazing animals again. And it's just hard to give a shout out just to certain people because it takes everybody to make this thing work.
For sure.
Absolutely. That's perfect. And I will agree with you. I mean, on the couple we brought and stuck in the middle of all the snakes, they'd glaze
Everybody
over the ball
commented,
pythons and they'd stop at the leopard geckos and they just sit and look at those. So maybe that is making a little turnaround, you know?
Yeah.
It seemed like
And
every time.
And it all goes in it all goes in cycles. There for a while, they were a very popular animal, and then kind of the crested geckos kind of took over for a little bit. And then now it seems like the crusties are kind of, not totally dying off, but it seems like the leopard geckos are catching them and getting popular again. So
They're so cute. Ugh.
Absolutely.
it's that
I can't
it's
get
that
over
smile.
how cute they are.
It's the smile. It's the constant smile.
It's contagious. And yes, we're going
It
to
is.
echo that too, Stan. Strength in numbers, support your U.S. ARC guys. That goes for leopard geckos to dogs, to cats, to fish, to parrots, to birds, to lizards, to snakes. Doesn't matter what you keep. That is important to all animal keepers. So if you're not a supporter, find a way. Throw a couple bucks at somebody that is. They can pitch it in for a donation, but U.S. ARC, 100% important. Great show, Jeff. Appreciate it again, 100%. Hang out for a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit backstage, but we're going to roll everybody out of here, let them get on to the rest of their week. 2 days left, guys. We got a holiday weekend coming up. We got that extended 3-day weekend. Everybody's going to get their barbecues out and get with family. Hopefully not as crazy a family as Jeff's, having that stuff going on. Everybody has a good time, but and we got a great show coming up. Next week, we've got Dan and Kristen from Vision Quest. So we've got animals from them. He's a super knowledgeable guy. He's way ahead on some projects, years ahead on projects that are just becoming popular now. So he already saw that ages ago, and he's got a lot of stuff in his rack that we're all going to want to see. So, Jeff, thank you again. Hang out with us, guys. Finish out the week strong, and appreciate every one of you for coming out and hanging out tonight. And have a fantastic Thursday, Friday. Let's get to that weekend, guys. Yeah. Everybody in agreement? Weekend time?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
weekend time. All right, guys. Thanks again, everybody. Peace out.
Bye.
Let's close this thing
Thanks,
out,
everybody.